This is Teachable Moments with April podcast, and you guessed it, I'm your host, April. If you're a returning listener and a part of the Teachable Moments with April podcast family, welcome back. For those who are checking me out for the first time, well, hello and welcome. To everyone listening, be encouraged and look for the teachable moments that are all around us. Enjoy. All right, this is April from Teachable Moments with April podcast. I'm your host. So I have several movies that I wanted to do reviews for, and I'm kind of falling behind because I felt that it was more important to talk about some of the other content that I have that I've been posting episodes for, which is in regards to spiritual warfare. I would like to think that the Holy Spirit has moved me to put that first and foremost, to take a shift and get that information out that I've been putting out, because it's very timely. It's what we're going through now, whether you may realize it or not, but that's what's happening. That's why we're seeing all the things play out the way they are. I kind of regret in a way that I hadn't done it sooner, and I've said that already. So anyway, this I feel like has something to do with spiritual warfare, and it's a movie that actually came out recently, I'm thinking, and it shows, it stars Monique, and it's called The Reading, and I actually viewed it for free on Pluto TV. Now it's also on other channels. I think it's BET Plus. It might be on Amazon Prime. Let me just look real quick and see. Okay, so it has BET Plus, Roku, and Amazon are some of the options. I viewed it on Pluto, which I was very surprised that it was on there, and I had actually forgot about it. I actually like Monique as a comedian, but I did hear about this movie. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's gotten good reviews. So anyway, let me just read the overview. If you haven't already seen it and you are thinking about seeing it, and you feel some type of way about whatever they call spoilers or Easter eggs, or whatever the young people say, then you might want to not listen to this, okay? But I feel like, interestingly enough, the movie, I tried to look online at some reviews as well, because my perception of the movie, I think, has to deal with spiritual warfare. On the surface, it seems like it doesn't. But to me, in my opinion, it does. And I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. Welcome back. So I'm going to read the information they have on IMDb about The Reading. And on here it says it's 1 hour and 36 minutes. And it says it's considered to be a thriller, and it said it follows Emma, which is Monique's character, as she writes a book in order to cope with deadly home invasion and how a new terror will be unleashed after a reading performed in her home. So you have a variety of players here. And let me get down to the storyline or the synopsis. It says, recently widowed Emma Leeden, which is Monique Hicks, details the loss of her family to a gruesome break-in in her new book called Invasion. So it kind of opens up after that when they show Monique as Emma Leeden on a particular, like any other type of talk show, okay? And she is talking about this book. It's a year after the murder of her family, which was, I thought she had two daughters, but the little one, her son Tyron, was a little boy, okay? And her teenage daughter, Kendall, I believe it is, and her husband, Matthew, who was he had a very lucrative career. I think it was in diamonds, and some other things as well. So anyway, to generate press, Emma agrees to a stage reading by a 19-year-old by the name of Sky Brown. In Emma's now fortified home, there's only one problem. Sky's spiritual connection is real, and evil emerges in a house they can't get out of. Now, on this particular website, IMDb, it says the tagline for this particular movie is this: what happens when you open a door you can't close and a house you can't get out of? Then also it says underneath here, it says, did you know? Trivia. Wondering if this is supposed to be Whoopi Goldberg's kid after Ghost. The psychic mom has the same name, Oda M. Brown, which is in this particular movie is Oda M. Brown is actually Sky Brown's mother, who I don't see her actually at any type of work. It seems like she's at home. They show the inside of Sky's and her mom, Oda Brown, home, in which the mother has all of these accolades. She has all of these, she actually went to college, and it looks like it's some type of psychology. She's a psychologist, but you never see her go home. She's a person that seems to be addicted a little bit to game shows, and like Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune and ones like that. They never really show that necessarily. Those are the shows, but that's what it is. And she tends to, if I had to guess, I'm not a psychologist myself, but I would think she has some form of OCD, and different things. She might be on, she has some mental health issues, and I think she's probably on disability, if I had to guess. And that would explain why she's at home. She might have some form of agoraphobia. That's just my opinion, by seeing it, and you never really see her go to work, and that's the reason why money is tight, and why Sky herself, she's in college as well, and they need money. They're strapped. The interesting part about this is there are a lot of questions, as usual, that I have that I'm left with, but I don't think the movie itself, I dislike it, but there are a lot of people that do like it, and they give it a thumbs down. But I find it interesting that I started doing the thing with the spiritual warfare, here on this particular podcast, and then I came across this movie. I was reluctant about watching it for a variety of reasons, but I was curious. The book, I'm going to backtrack a little, stay with me. The book's name, Invasion, it's not just about a home invasion. I believe that the book, it signifies something, that it signifies an invasion spiritually of the character of Monique. Now, I don't know when was Monique or Emma Leeden in this particular movie invaded. What gained access to her at what point? I know there is a spirit, if we're going to go by the information that we've been talking about in spiritual warfare, there's a spirit of greed, and it basically says that much. But I believe that name of that book that allegedly is about the home invasion, it was also a spiritual invasion. So when the movie opens up, it shows these people, allegedly people, okay, but I believe them to be, personally, like I said, dark spirits. They're dressed in black, and the way they move and the way they look. Now, they have masks, like ski masks on. They're dressed in all black. And I want to say, if I had to guess, it was more than one. It was at least five, at least, 4 or 5. And I believe that it's not just something that she fabricated, like to say when she talked about the home invasion, because you find out that actually there was no home invasion, that actually it was something, this is where I say it's spiritual, that she systematically went through her home after coming home from, I don't know, was she in some type of work or whatever. They really don't show her husband, she really doesn't have to work. Comes home and she greets each of her children individually. The first one is the little one, Tyron, and then her teenage daughter, and then her husband. Then she proceeds to go on to cook. And then allegedly what we see, it opens up with these dark figures gaining access to her home and systematically killing everyone except her, although it looks like she endures a very brutal beating and almost losing her life, but she doesn't. We find out later that it's her, that she has actually gone through her house and killed every last person, and that she self-inflicted that onto herself. I believe that the spirits gain access to her. So the spiritual aspect or the supernatural aspect isn't just contained to this young lady like we're led to believe, Sky Brown, who her and I think it's 3 other young people. Let me see what their names are. Okay, so we got Sky Brown, she has the sight. It's not just a scheme, more or less. Although I'm confused as to why they talk about the people that they do these readings for as marks. Once I gave more thought to it, I'm thinking maybe it's because they may decide on a certain amount, but then as the reading goes on, they decide to up the ante in the amount that they can get. Okay, so we have Gregory, okay, who I believe is her boyfriend. I don't know how serious they are. It kind of to me hints at it, but it never really says that that's her boyfriend. Then they have another young person who I believe is in the medical field. She may be studying to be in the medical field. Her name is Jesse. And then you have another young man who is named Randy. He's the tech guy. He's the guy that records the audio, the visual, and anything technical. He's like a techie. He's like a little geek. Okay, very smart. All of them seem very, very smart. Gregory is the one that books them. Okay, so it isn't just Sky and the supernatural paranormal kind of reading, from people that have passed on. Then you see, I think the aspect that they're not touching on is the fact that there's something going on with Emma Leeden's character. And at some point, you start to see her physically. Now, this is the thing about, I'm not an expert at spiritual warfare. I'm learning, okay? Just like everybody else that may not have just living in this world, okay? And learning as we go. But you can see her change physically, I think, her demeanor, and it's something on a whole nother level. Okay, welcome back. So we're talking about the movie starring Monique that is called The Reading. So after I gave it even more thought, let's take it even further, is that the home invasion of this beautiful home, it's a mansion, I think it can also be seen as an analogy or a metaphor, The house itself, when you think of homes or you think of a house, more so a home, it's where you go to retreat from the world. It's your sanctuary. It's where you relax. It's where you feel safe. It's where you feel loved. By these mysterious home invaders, aka spirits, that home, that house, that mansion actually may represent her spirit. Okay, gaining access to her spirit, to her soul, and attacking her and overtaking her, and basically making her actually take out her entire family for money. Of course, spirits don't care about those things. The agenda of spiritual warfare and spiritual attacks, that's what they use for humans. For us, they find some way to get in there. Now, at some point in the movie, it gets down to the two young ladies, Sky and her friend Jessie. The other men have already been wiped out. And actually, the sister-in-law was there as well. She actually does something to her early on, along with the first young man, that the character Gregory. And they start to talk to her. The two young ladies, they're hiding in the house. And at some point you see a break in Monique's character, and she actually seems to show humanity, because at some point it's as if she isn't. She lacks any type of humanity. She's singing a song. It's like something else is inhabiting her. Something else is there that isn't her. On the surface, if you look at it, you just think that she's just another, individual that's just, not a good person or just greedy. But seeing past what is behind that, the spiritual aspect of that, when people commit certain crimes, it is due to some form of spirit gaining access to you, because that is not the original how God created us. That would require that you would believe in God, and that you believed in good and evil, in the existence of good and evil, and God and the adversary, of course. You can see her whole body. This is what I don't know if I'm articulating it. Is that you can actually see when someone is inhabited or influenced or oppressed by something not of God. They actually, to me, they look different. And their face, it has like a second face. It's a duality. On the surface, you see the person that you may know, but then there's another face behind it. Their mannerisms don't match up, and that's how you know they're being influenced by something else. And I find it interesting in a lot of ways, because the mannerisms, even the way I kept saying, way she moved, she didn't move like herself. Now, of course, on face value, you see her, she's playing a role, the human, Emma Leeton. She's playing a role that she's disabled. She has a stutter. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about, because you see her, it's something more. I don't know how to say it in a way that more than that. Her movements she's too quick. She's running. Her cadence to her voice. And I think I was very struck when, after she ends up at some point locking down the house, when she starts to lock down the house. Now, that's another aspect to that. If we're going to think more of a metaphorical or analogy, once the spirits, have taken her over through her greed. Okay, the spirit of greed. She starts to lock down the house. And even when she comes and confronts the sister-in-law, okay, and these young people, even her facial, something with her face changes. Her eyes is what got me. She looked different. It seemed beyond just the physical face. I'm getting chills now talking about it. It was a light, an unnatural light behind her eyes that made you realize there's something else working inside this person. And it's not just a surface, she's just a bad person, she's just evil. It's not, it's something more. Okay? It's something more to it than that. And the way she would just move through the house after the facade was dropped. I can't even describe it. She was running, but it didn't seem human to me. It didn't seem human. How she did it. She had no remorse. She had no humanity. Okay? Humanity. And this is just what I think. So the analogy or the metaphor of the house itself has been invaded. It means her spirit, her soul, what makes her a human, who makes her, Emma Leiden had been breached, okay, and locked down and impenetrable. Because you think about it, if we're just going to think about it without actually giving any thought to what the spiritual ramifications of this is, why would a woman, it has to have a deeper meaning, okay? Because, okay, let's look at it. She killed her family, but she's playing a role, okay? She's playing a role that she's been victimized. And on the surface, it looks like, okay, she's just scared, she's this, that, and the other, first, second, and third. But the reality is that she isn't. She isn't. She's actually the perpetrator of this violence. But why did she still do it? It goes beyond just what it may look like, just like the book that she put out. And it's simply entitled Invasion. What got me, let me take it a bit further, see if it makes sense. She does that. I mean, it is state of the art. She explains it. Actually, she takes the young Sky Brown on a tour of the rooms of her mansion. Primarily her kids' room. Okay? And she says all the things that she got done. She even talks about this gun that allegedly she doesn't know how to use, which she does. Okay. Why would someone do that? I think it means something more than what is on the surface that the viewer, the audience to see. And once this young lady started to actually manifest that she could actually talk or access information about her children who had passed away, her husband, the other people, including Monique as well as her sister-in-law, could actually hear movement. You could hear children's footsteps. Okay, which I thought was interesting because she only had the younger one. But it sounded as if, now that I think about it, like several, which was interesting. She could hear, everyone could hear typing from Monique's husband's study. Okay? Everyone could hear it. It wasn't just, it was manifesting itself. Now, I'm going to see if I can say it, get my thought across. At some point, once all of this started to take place, that's when something within Monique started to change. And at some point, she went to this elaborate, like a touch screen kind of situation that was linked to the home security and started putting in all these codes, and they could hear the locking down of the house. But then what I did catch is she kept looking at the screens of all the rooms. Why was she doing that? Why was she doing that? I found that interesting. It was as if, not necessarily she was scared, but she was looking for something. Now, everybody's in the dining room, so what is she looking in the other rooms for? And she was literally transfixed. When she unfortunately shot that young man, Gregory, she never turned away from the screen. She literally put her hand back, and that's when you saw her with the gun, and she shot him. Now, he didn't pass away right away, which is something that a lot of people in the reviews had a problem with, because they thought by something like that, him being shot like that, how is he still walking around? Because she shot him in the chest. They had a problem with that. They didn't like that. They didn't think it was realistic. But she was looking for something. She was looking for something. It actually spooked her, I think. But if she's filled with spirits herself, why? Now, that's just my opinion. So there are a lot of things that I would have done different if following these two young ladies and these young people as they transverse through this woman's home. Because it's always, if you've ever watched any kind of movie like this, the first one comes to mind is Don't Breathe 1 and 2. You're actually on another person's territory. No one's going to know that their house better than the person that owns it. So there's always going to be a challenge there. There's always going to be a challenge to that. So yeah, but they went through that. Another problem that I had was that there was only one place, allegedly, in that house that got Wi-Fi, any kind of service. I found that very odd. I haven't figured that part out, but there was only one place. Now, allegedly, closer to the end of this movie, it's the staircase. Okay, it's the staircase, and I think that has some deeper meaning, but I haven't figured it out. What exactly does that mean? Although we'd seen earlier, her daughter, when her daughter was alive, Kendall, was actually on her phone. So that's interesting. So how could she be on her phone in her bedroom if you only get service on the stairs? But they noticed something up with that when they entered the house, the young people, to do the reading. They couldn't get online. Now there's something there too. There's a deeper meaning to that as well. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured it out. Okay. And then consequently at the end of the movie, now I read some reviews and some people said that they didn't understand, and one in particular on IMDb was someone that was identified themselves as a film student, and they watched it for class. Okay, and they said they didn't understand the ending of the movie. Well, what I took from it was that young Sky, it became either her or Monique, okay, because the friend suggested, Jesse, that they're from the hood, and they said that they should fight her, okay? They went inside the woman Monique's closet, which was massive, and basically put layers of clothes on because it seemed as though she had ran out of bullets, and she was wielding a knife, okay? She was wielding a knife, and to fight her, for them to double team her and overtake her, which she lost her life, the friend Jessie. She put up a good fight. So it came narrowed down to Sky and Emma Leeden, which is Monique's character. And she ended up finding a bullet underneath the bed, the master bedroom. And she ended up shooting Monique in the face, okay, which seemed to be a lethal shot. Now, usually when you're dealing with people like this, it takes a lot to get them because they seem to have this almost superhuman strength, and it takes a lot to take them down, but it didn't. Now, they show the young Sky on the same TV show that Monique, when they opened up, was talking about this book. She was on the very same show. Now the camera moves in, and that's usually what's going to let you know things that you should be paying attention to. When the camera zooms in or stays in a single spot in a movie, you know you need to really pay close attention, and there's something that, the director or the person that wrote it or whatever is trying to give you a clue without actually in your face, basically telling you. And they show Sky has like literally a knife through her hand. She got it through her hand, but there's a scar on the other side. And she says that she somehow figured out the codes. That house was like Fort Knox. What I take from it is that there was a transference. There was a transference between Monique's, whatever had overtaken Monique had entered into this girl. Because you see at some point in the movie that during one of the readings by a college student, he looked like he was pretty well off because they start talking about trust funds and all of that. And she actually, Sky, could speak, about his mother who had passed away. And the mother of his deceased mom had tried to gain access to Sky. And she just, by a short distance, was able to push her away. She said how hard it was for her to not allow this spirit that is allegedly this young man's mother gain access to her. And it had put her in a bad place because it was becoming harder and harder to ward off these spirits that she kept encountering when she would do this type of work with her and the other 3 young people. And she wanted to stop. She didn't want to continue. She kind of leads on to say something happened when she was a little kid. So she had this gift for a while. And the young man that is her boyfriend or not her boyfriend, Gregory, asked her, what happens when they touch you? That's how she relayed them gaining access. And she was very reluctant to say, but then she said, they possess you. Now, I don't know if she was possessed at some point or if her mother also held the same gift and something had happened to her mother. And maybe that's why her mother is the way she is, now that I'm talking about it. You can pick up on the fear. Now, if we go from the thought process of, are these spirits, do ghosts of the people who have passed away, are they really the ghosts of people that passed away? Or are they just spirits posing as the dearly departed? Okay, and this within the ranks of these spirits and her stepping over a line, they conspired amongst each other, okay, if you will, to gain access to her. Finally. And at the end of the movie, I believe that's what happened. I believe that Monique and whatever had entered into her, okay, they entered at the point of her death. That vessel, that body, was no longer good for them. Where do they go? And literally, Monique had straddled this young lady, and they were literally fighting to the death. They entered her. And then there's like a split second in which you hear whispering. It's very faint, but you hear whispering. And then they show her, and then the camera just stays on her face, and she looks directly into the camera. You were just listening to Teachable Moments with April podcast. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode. We invite you to stay connected with us on the other social media platforms of ours, which is TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. Also, we'd like to invite you to check out our official podcast landing page on podpage.com/teachable moments with April to see all our content in one place and leave personal messages, feedback, and more.